This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform where you can create your own website. Now, I'll be honest with you, drywall is not my favorite thing to work with, but it is one of the things that within a relatively short amount of time, you get a lot of progress because you can cover such big amount of surfaces really quickly. But when I say normally not my favorite thing, well, this is not normal because we're not gonna use regular drywall. We're gonna use something called Ultra Board, which is a really hard fiber reinforced plasterboard. And the way we're gonna touch it, I'm positive is the fastest way to hang drywall, period. Because this explosive powered nail gun is how we're gonna attach that drywall to that wall. First things first, getting this thing aligned, and they're a little bit too short. And I'd rather not talk about why they're not long enough. Okay, fine. The reason why they're not long enough is that, well, they used to be long enough. These used to be 3 meters, but we cut them down a bit to make it easier to carry them up all the flights of stairs up in here. And I thought I cut them to the exact size they need to be, but the ceiling height is a little bit higher in here. Didn't notice until it was too late, and now we'll just have to fix it. I'll show you how later. On to the fun part though, hanging some drywall. So here's the crazy part. The way I attach this, it's just like that. Isn't this just crazy? That was my first time doing this, and I almost can't believe how awesome and how easy that was. So before we go any further, I just have to say a huge thank you to Nulips. Nulips are the ones that have developed this awesome system, and have also really kindly supplied this entire project with this awesome drywall, as well as the drywall in the ceiling and all the steel studs for everything, which obviously saved us a bunch of money not having to pay for all this stuff. And in return, I'll show you guys a bunch of the products that they sent me, and I'll give you the honest opinion of how they are to work with. First honest opinion, that nail gun is awesome. Now, unfortunately, you can't do this with regular drywall. There's a couple of things that you need to have in place for all this to work. First off are the steel studs. These things are also from Nulips and are part of the system that they call Nail It. They're actually sort of a two-piece folded design, which I guess is so that they grab onto the nails so that the whole board just doesn't fall right off the wall. Then obviously the second thing you need is this, what they call Ultra Board. It's just a really hard fiber reinforced plasterboard. It even sounds hard. Has like a ring to it. When you cut this stuff, you can see that there's a bunch of little hairs that stick out, and it's quite hard to cut as well. And then of course, lastly, you need this nail gun, which shoots these 1.8 millimeter nails. And if you combine all of that, you're left with a system that is super, super quick. All right, moving on. So some of you might have noticed that I've installed this board so the end didn't end up on a stud, which with this system actually works really well because they've got these things. This is a plastic strip that acts as a joint, and we just squish this in onto the edge of the board. And that strip will hold the boards level to each other, and it also replaces the paper that you normally need to apply when filling the walls. Now here's the downside with the system. These boards are really heavy. A full 3 meter board is almost 40 kilograms. Oops. Gotta make sure that the boards are properly in here. And the same thing again. All right, now this obviously doesn't fit that well because there's a box for an outlet down here. And I got myself a new tool, one of these bad boys, which I've never used before. And I hope it's strong enough to cut through this board. That didn't work at all. Oh God, that did not work at all. This stuff is just too hard. And although I was able to sort of cut it with this, there's just way too much resistance so I can't feel if I'm cutting the board or the board and the electrical box. So I made a right mess of it. And right now, let's see if we can figure out a better way to do those electrical boxes. Laser to tell me where the stud is. Now attach it. Now with the thing sort of barely held in place, I've got this magnet thingy which, somewhere. Hope this works. Not quite. A bit higher, is that what it's saying? Haha! No kidding, that worked. Because I'd already installed this thing in the box before I attached the plywood. Arguably a bit of back and forth to get these to attach properly. At least did this stuff way easier than that little machine thingy. Haha! And now what we're left with is a door opening that we need to cut. I'm yet again gonna try my cutting thingy, cut the top, and then see if we can break off the rest with a knife. All right, fingers crossed. Ha! I guess we'll do the same thing for the other half. Now the next step is covering the existing walls with a new layer of drywall. That in itself should be pretty easy, but we've of course got these windows to deal with. And yet again, I decided to make a bit more work for myself. So normally what you do with windows like these is that you use a couple of pieces of wood that fit in a slot, go straight out, and then you put a piece of trim all the way around the window. Now, that used to be here, and Vilda's already done the great job of ripping all of those out because we don't want any trims around the windows. So we're actually gonna make the sides and the top with this ultra board so that once everything is cut to size and screwed in place, we can treat this edge just like any other outside corner on drywall, make it look all nice, no trim, it's gonna look fantastic. And the only problem is that nothing here is straight and we need to create a frame that we can screw all this drywall onto. Luckily, I got the perfect solution for that, which is this steel L profile. Attach these and then the board has something good to screw onto. Oh, and one more thing. While I was doing this, I discovered that I have a bit more space on the inside here. So instead of making the sides square like this, I'm gonna actually offset them a bit. Not by much actually, just 5 degrees from each side, which is only like a difference of a couple of centimeters on each side, about 5 centimeters in total. But I think and hope that it's gonna look really good once it's finished. And now, just like in the cookie shows, here's what I prepared for you earlier. This other window already has all the framing around it. And now for the inside part, ultra board, into which I've routed out a groove in the back so that now it should fit inside the groove on the windows. Now the top is my favorite part. It's obviously got to be angled out on both sides. They obviously need to be trimmed off, but you can sort of get the idea of what it's going to look like. I think it's going to be worth the effort. Now we just have to do the same thing to the other 2 windows. So now to the part that should be super quick. There's actually old wood paneling behind all the already existing drywall on these walls. So what I'm gonna do, and this isn't actually an approved official method by Nullips, but they said I can try it, is to shoot straight through our ultra board, the drywall, and into the wood paneling behind it, just with some longer nails, which should make this just insanely satisfying to install drywall. That thing is on there, not going anywhere. And definitely wear a mask for this, but this is the way we're gonna do the rest of this wall. But first, a quick ad from today's sponsor, Squarespace. So when I'm not busy renovating old apartments like this one, I usually make and design stuff. Things like 3D printed boxes and pieces of furniture. And I sell the plans and 3D files for those on my website. A website which I created using Squarespace. Squarespace enabled me to super quickly and easily create my own website. It's super easy to set up, you don't need to have any technical knowledge, just choose from any of their award-winning templates and get started creating your own website right away. Squarespace has the tool you need to start selling online, including e-commerce templates, inventory management, a simple checkout process, and secure payments. On my website, I sell everything from build plans to 3D files, but whatever you want to sell, Squarespace has the merchandising features to make your products look their best online. Get your domains directly through Squarespace. They have a ton of different domains to choose from, everything from the classics, .com, .net, but also more cool ones like .art or the one I'm using, .shop. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/ALCH for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. 50 minutes for that whole wall. Now onto the sides, which were already pre-cut. I'll fill the gap behind there with some insulating foam, both for sound and cold from the outside. Rinse, repeat for the rest. Man, this feels nice. Finally starting to see small bits and pieces of the finished result. Even the rain feels kind of nice. Next up, the brick wall behind us. We're gonna frame up this wall with some steel studs to get it nice and flat. Also, you might be wondering if you've seen the previous couple of videos, when are we actually gonna move in? Because like a month ago, I said that we move in 2 weeks, which obviously didn't happen. Then 2 weeks later, I said it was 1 week left. Then 2 weeks after that, I said we only had a couple of days. That then extended to another 2 weeks. But right now, and there's no more pushing it, we've got 7 days till we're living here. But I mean, come on, looking at this place now, should be totally achievable. So 7 days to get at least one dust-free room that we can sleep and live in. The rest is still gonna be a construction site. Right, I'm about to attach the steel studs to the walls and frame this wall. And here's a really cool trick. This wall is now made out of ultra board. So what I'm gonna do is take a piece of that same ultra board, put it into the steel stud, and then just shoot through the ultra board, through the steel stud, into the next layer of ultra board. And this thing is not going anywhere. And then we'll just frame out the rest of this wall. I've done some electrical insulations in. Next up, drywall. Now, this wall is actually gonna have 2 layers to better insulate from the sound. But instead of having to deal with those massive boards for both layers, Nurips actually sent me these things, which is literally just a third of a sheet of drywall. It's also 15 mil instead of the regular 13, and ultra board. This wall is done. I did have to spend quite a bit of time figuring out how to solve all of this thing. Now next up is the second layer of full-size, same 30 mil ultra board that will go on this wall. The nice thing about that is that since this wall also is made out of ultra board, I can just shoot it on wherever I want. Then after that, we'll have to cover the rest of the walls behind us and all the way over to that side. All of that is the same exact process as you've seen a bunch now. So let's speed it up a bit. I gotta say, this makes me really happy. This is the first time we've got one complete room. Everything is covered. There's no more loose insulation, dirty bricks, a ceiling that leaks dirt all the time, or anything like that. This actually looks like a room that you can potentially live in not too long, as opposed to what we've dealt with so far, which is, yeah. Now we've got exactly 4 days until we move into this place, and before then we need to turn this big room into 2 individual rooms. We'll build all the walls, of course, with steel studs, which are so much nicer to build with than traditional 2x4s, especially when you have to carry them up 3 flights of stairs. I'm currently carrying 24 meters of steel beams up 3 flights of stairs with, let's say, relative ease. Now, here's an interesting fact for you. If this were regular 2x4s, these 24 meters would weigh 64 kilos. And although it's a little bit tight, walking up 3 flights of stairs, I'll gladly carry a bunch of these than those long, heavy 2x4s. Right, so we've got about 5 hours until Vilde gets here. I'm gonna see how much I can get done in that short amount of time. With the steel studs and the nail system, it should be pretty quick work. Oh yeah, you can shoot these things. Stuff just always takes much longer than you expect. This is all I managed yesterday. Didn't get quite as far before Vilde came back home, but regardless, she seemed pretty happy about the progress. The framework itself doesn't take much time at all, but then it's all the small bits and pieces that just take much more time than expected. Like making sure that all the pieces for the door frames are installed correctly, there's wood inside of all the sides so that we can screw the doors into them, and also doing all the electrical for the whole thing. Luckily, all that is done. It's currently Friday, we're moving in on Monday. That leaves us 3 days, so we better get started on some drywall. Ow. Oh my god. That was everything. Now, all the rooms are actual rooms with walls. And it just feels super strange to be able to walk in here and have rooms and not a big open space. Now, the only little bit that's left is the gap at the bottom here that came from our slight miscalculation on how long these needed to be. This is actually going to be hidden by the pretty tall baseboards that we're going to use, so it really doesn't matter. But to fix this, before we install the drywall, I put another piece of ultra board on the back side here, which you can see on here. So now I can just screw this to the bottom here, through both layers of ultra board, shoot in a couple of nails, and we'll be good to go. It's a new day, and we've got only 2 days left before we move into this place. And tomorrow we have to pack out of the previous apartment, the one we're currently living in. So realistically, we need to finish this place today. Vilde's already done a great job in preparing the flooring here, so we'll lay some nicer flooring on top of this. But first, we need to install some doors for both the bedroom and the bathroom. Now the big question, does it close first try? Probably not. And I don't have a doorknob. Babe? Thank you. So after a little bit of trouble adjusting the door so it actually snaps closed, you just didn't want to do that. Install the door handles. I don't know what happened. Now it's perfect. Moving on. So it's getting quite late. As you can see, it's getting dark outside. Can't annoy the neighbors too much today. So rather than doing the other door, we're gonna start with the floor in here. Luckily, that should be pretty quick of a process. I'll get some help. I'll get Vilde to lay the flooring and I'll do the cutting. Pretty late, but we're finally finished. We've got a floor, pretty much a dust-free room that we can now live in. Tomorrow it's packing, day after it's moving in. This is finally starting to look like an apartment. I think we're both pretty tired, so this will be it for this video. We'll get on with the moving now. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to I think we're... subscribe. What she said. Subscribe. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified every time you upload something new. As for now, thanks so much for watching and see you guys in the next one. Bye! We got a blower.